investment that is required to bring it to that capacity. So between the two definitions, you have a full scope.
Okay, Dr. Osman, let me come to you and ask you this question as a follow-up, because just like you've stated, there is a stock of competencies, knowledge, personal attributes, and whatever, for you to deliver good economic value, so to speak, if I'm to summarize that. And in my own understanding, I think that probably human capital increases through education. Am I right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. How have we been able to have our human capital quotient increase in the country, if actually it's increasing?
Yeah, actually that's a critical
because
question.
More of us are going to school and have gone to school.
Yeah.
I hope my question is not dumb.
No.
Okay.
So like as follow-up to the definition, because to have that human capital, they need to have a trained skill. And normally those skills come from educational institutions and vocational establishments. So to regenerate human capital, you have to make investment on the skill delivery of the system, that is education and other vocational institutions. So that kind of institutions can regenerate the human capital, so to speak. Based on the curriculums and the need of each of the sector, the education system normally redirect the positions at which the training for that human capital or human resources that is required at a particular point in time.
Okay, Dr. Newman, how far has the Human Capital Development and Implementation Committee, that is the HCDIC, gone in terms of probably articulating a comprehensive policy for achieving the HCD aspirations of the FSS 2020?
Okay. The strategy has already been articulated as far back as 2010.
Okay.
Leading to that process, there were different things that happened. There was benchmark research, there was detailed case studies that were reviewed, and there were a lot of syndicate sessions that was all inclusive of people in the operative sectors, in the operative side of the sector, and also in the regulatory and also in the professional. So all the stakeholders were involved in producing that single document. That document has been approved and now is an action plan. And part of this discussion is part of the implementation, because after that documentary research and the report, which is a difference from what we normally have in this country, is that this phase is the stakeholder engagement and communication aspect, so that everybody comes to the table and is of the same perspective. And thereafter, based on a common understanding, everybody will take his portion and run with it. Okay. So far the report is ready, and now is the communication phase. Immediately after the communication, each specific, the financial service sector can be generally in theme, but when you go by the industries, there are slight differentiations, and at the communication, those differentiations will be recognized and used going forward.
Now, Mr. Jayol, what actually are the challenges that we do encounter, or that you encounter as the president of the CIB, especially as it concerns bankers? And bankers or the banking industry is very integral in the financial system. So speak to me about some of the challenges, and why do we have those challenges?
Well, I think the challenges we have is not peculiar to the financial sector. It's been the general challenge with regards to how do we see human capacity in the entire economy. And basically we've had, I mean, like Nancy said, one of the things we've done in the industry has been, how do we have a consensus of what exactly do we even require? What is the framework? We've operated in an industry where there are no clearly defined, there are small bits of those things everywhere, but there is no holistic articulation of what is the framework required. What do you require for competency? So all of us as standard, as those who establish standard, those who train, do not have a meeting of mind as to what exactly should people who work in bank possess. That's one. And secondly, beyond that, there's not been, again, a forum for enforcement of what should be done. Because if you don't have standards that people must meet, how do you then begin to ensure people comply? So what we've had over time is that there is no unified approach to it. People train, of course, to spend money on people. But the question is, training for what sake?
So does it not make it difficult as a professional institution in the banking industry to tackle those challenges? Does it make it difficult?
It is particularly difficult, which is why the approach of talking together and defining what exactly we require. Because basically, our understanding is this: no matter what level you are in the banking industry or the financial sector industry, there are common competencies, skills, and knowledge that you should have. If you take an officer in a bank, there must be an agreement as to the minimum. And so there must be a definition of what this person should have. And as you as you grow in your career, we should know what you should have. So that once the standard is established, trainers know what they should train. And all those who add value know. Before now, we do not have that sense. And we're working at it at the same time now.
So what steps have you taken as CIBN? Sorry that I'm still dwelling with you a bit. What steps have you taken as CIBN to tackle those human capital challenges?
At CIBN, what we're doing is, again, we don't want to get it all wrong. We're training. People have been trained, standards have been set, but we believe that we need to work with other stakeholders to have an inclusive framework for the industry. Don't forget, ours is to establish standards. People are supposed to train. The operators know what they want. Regulators know what is required. So that's why we're doing all this talk together. So once we come up and say, this exactly is a standard, then for us as the institute, we then begin to look, what are we measuring? How do we ensure that deliverers of service are doing that? What do we need to look at in order to say we're going to accredit an institution? And how do we ensure that there is continuous development and training? All these we're doing, but they're not holistic.
Okay.
Follow up to that, because it's a two-stage thing. One, that is the formal education that you receive is based on certain curriculum. So at the university level, we give a uniform training for the financial courses so that it will give you a benchmark. When you come out to the industry, you will be regulated and by the professional organizations. So therefore, that benchmark is start from your educational institution, where they will give you the benchmark. Then you come out to specific now. You go to your own professional organizations, they will give you specific training for career progression. So therefore, without that minimum standard at the early stage of the training, you will not get it wrong. So that's why we are having some problem that when we dish out the graduates, some of them doesn't have the minimum standard. So therefore, the professional find it very difficult to switch them within the career
Some of them don't have the minimum standard. Is it because the school is deficient in providing the minimum standards, or they provided the minimum standards and those students at that time didn't take up, didn't imbibe it?
No, it's a two-way thing.
Okay.
One, there are some institutions, they don't have even the minimum. They don't have the even minimum standard. They are not even institutions. And therefore, they cannot produce the minimum standards required. Secondly, there is lack of infrastructure and facilities to train the minimum standard. In a situation whereby you train, for instance, there are courses that they are not supposed to be a first-year degree program. Yes, like banking and finance is not supposed to be a first-year degree program. It's supposed to be a course that after you did your first degree, for instance, in economics or accounting, then you go for banking and finance. That is a minimum standard worldwide. But because of the facilities and the human resources, even to train those people within the university, you find it very difficult to train a minimum standard at that level. So by the time they move into the professional level, they find it very difficult to be situated. And therefore, the career progression, you find it staggering, in some cases unconclusive, and you can't move from one progressive position to another. And some of the challenges is that, one, there is no link, so to say, in the past decades between the employer of labor and the people that are training those workforce.
Okay. Let me take, there seems to be quite a whole lot coming out of this interview, but we are running short of time. Let me quickly come to Dr. Newman. Is there right now a roadmap for the realization of the objectives of the HCD?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a roadmap, and still the same thing as what Dr. Usman had said. What the HCD had recognized is that some things are intrinsic to the sector, that the sector can control, which are things like the skills, the competencies, definitions, and the framework, as Mr. Jaila had said. There's some other things that are extrinsic to the sector, which are things like our issues in the educational system, infrastructure issues, societal values, and all that. That is why, and also even something as simple as how much is the investment in education, and how much financial literacy is in the general society.
Which is low.
Which is
very low.
And that's why we have this kind of show on air.
Yes, almost non-existent. So the HCDIC has recognized the need for this dual side, and also the icing that caps it all is the financial literacy. So because whatever the industry does, whatever the respective industry do, whatever the sector does, at the end of the day, who buys the services? And what do they understand by those products? What are the benefits for them? So HCDIC has dimensioned the plan, and it has been approved. One side, again, is to now engage this public as we're having here. The next side is to have a stakeholder discussion, because there are different levels. There are the level of the other teams across the FSS 2020 project. All the projects must speak the same language, irrespective of whichever subgroup as you have been meeting on this program. The second side, again, is that all the heads of human capital from the operator side, irrespective of whichever industry, whether insurance, pension, or banking, must understand the roadmap.
Okay.
Then the regulators must also see it so that we can supervise and enforce. That's why the communication, once we finish, everybody will now take. So there's a roadmap to 2020.
Okay, lastly, Mr. Jariola, in just a few seconds, what do we hope to see moving forward?
Well, I believe generally you're going to see much more concerted effort towards capacity building, because again, with this roadmap, we're going to define exactly how we want to move. And so, even no matter how small the budget is, you're going to see a much more utilization of the budget, because if you're not working towards a goal, the tendency that you throw the money anyhow. Even the small budget is going to be focused, and we're going to see much more talking together between the professional bodies, the regulators, the providers of training, the universities, and other people. You're going to see much more coordination and myself. And I think as we work on literacy, financial literacy, the people are going to be
that leaves a lot of job for Mr. Usman, Dr. Usman, sorry, isn't it?
Yes, but the university is treated in such kind of manner that you have to review your curriculum over a period of time. So we are adjourned to the system that there is going to be review of the curriculum and the input we get from the employers of labor, because if you are going for accreditation, you have to have an input from your employer. What do they react? Yes, there is a lot of stories about our graduates, but people leave some stories behind it, because in the last 20 years, for anybody to be in the university has a business to be in the university.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Dr. Mutuka Usman, you brought out a whole lot of food for thought for me. I think probably I will follow them up on the show. Thank you very much for being on the program. Thank you, Dr. Mrs. Lucy Newman. Thank you very much. And Mr. Laoye Jayola, thank you very much. President and Chairman of the CIBN. It's been my pleasure hosting the three of you. All right, that's the show this Wednesday. Please do join us again tomorrow. Of course, you've heard it from them that financial literacy is very low in the country, and that is why the Money Show, is on. That is why you see me here almost every day on your screens to educate and inform us more. Join us again tomorrow for another interesting edition. I am Nancy Lo. Do have a wonderful Wednesday. Bye now.